Welcome everyone to ASC Financial Services. We are doing our Learn series. An overview to our team. My name is Leah Medina. I'm the Financial Accounting Manager. Daniela Lara is the AP Specialist. Leah Yang is a Lead AP Specialist. And Michelle Dean is the Lead AP Specialist. In today's session, we'll be going over purchase orders and contracts.
So let's begin with the purchase order form. The purchase orders are committed to pay for goods, services, and expenses to our vendors. In order to complete the forms, we also have it on our ASC website under the financial tab. There you'll find the purchase order checklist with the purchase order form. Please complete the check order list and check it off the boxes as you go along so that you will have a complete purchase order request. So on the top of the form, make sure to please complete the payee information that will list the name and the address. Also, the ship merchandise to lists where goods should be delivered on campus. And the contact information is make sure that it's also complete. Make sure to put the email and the phone number so that we can contact you, and also to give you the purchase order number, email back you the purchase order number. For the second portion of the form, please complete the description. This will be description of goods or service being purchased, and it should be complete. Provide quotes or supporting document. Make sure the ASC project number is listed and currently active. The object code is part of the project. And make sure that the questions that are compliance or answer regarding to IT expenses, hospitality, and vendor will be on campus. If you're purchasing any computer items, please check off the box where it says IT authorization is, and also provide the authorization documentation. If you're purchasing an item over 5,000, you have to also provide an approved sole source bid form. And if you're buying food or whatnot, please provide a completed hospitality justification form. And you can also get that form on the purchase order checklist. You can click on the link and it'll take you to the CSUF website where you can get that form there. Make sure the purchase order form is signed by an authorized signer and that he or she reviewed, signed, and dated the request. And please submit the completed form to your grant administrator to review. So I'm going to go over the competitive bid sole source selected source justification form. ASC Purchasing Policy 145 require that competitive bidding is to be conducted for purchases with value of 5,000 and up to 25,000. So sole source means that a single vendor is uniquely qualified to meet the department objective, and therefore the purchase should be exempt from the competitive bid process. You will skip part 1 and go to part 2 and complete that sections. Otherwise, you need to complete part 1, indicate the items you wish to purchase and their price by the vendor, attach price quotation from vendors contracted that can provide your items. If you have quotation from more than 3 vendors or more than 4 items, please attach a spreadsheet with this information, and you will list vendor number one, the name, and the total cost, and vendor number two, and so on to vendor number three. And where it says name of vendor selected, pick the vendor that you are going to select it and put the name and type it in the name there. If you skip part one and you are just to be doing the sole source justification form, you will then um, follow the directions in part two and check off the boxes that's pertaining to the reasonable of cost. Um, that's why you selected the vendor. On part three, you will also have to read that and also check mark off those boxes to the best of your knowledge, whether it's yes or no, and also include comment on there. In part four, you also need to provide supporting documentation. You have to attach the price quotations included in your summary and above part one. You have to attach a letter from the supplier certified that its quote price is equal to or less than that's given to be favored customers or other government agency. And please attach the sole source reasonable of cost. In part five, the PI would print his or her name, sign, and date, and he or she would forward it to the grants administrator. The grants administrator will review it and forward it down to ASC for the ASC accounts payable supervisor to review and whether he or she's going to approve or disapprove of it. She or he's going to sign and date. If it's more than 10,000, if the sole source is over 10,000, then our executive director, Chuck Kiso, will have to review and approve.
Now we're going to go over the difference between independent contracts, service agreements, and purchase orders. So the purchase orders that Mylea covered are mostly for goods and services and for payments to the university. Independent contractor agreements are for sole proprietors doing a service on campus or for your project. And these service agreements are for corporations, educational institutes, charities, things of that nature. Before engaging in any contract, first ask the vendor what their tax classification is. If they tell you they are a partnership or a sole proprietorship, please have them complete the independent contractor checklist. In the first section, they're going to list their name, the name of the company, their email address, and check off all of the boxes that apply. And then they'll go through and answer the questions, common law, factors, etc. And then once they've completed that, the grant administrator will complete the requester section listing their project number and then sign it with their phone extension and their signature and the date. Once they've completed that section, they will send it to their grant administrator, either in sponsored programs or campus programs, for review. After the grant administrator has reviewed it, they will send the paperwork over to Human Resources, and Human Resources will determine if we are able to hire the person as an independent contractor or not. If it's determined that we can hire them, you will fill out the independent contractor agreement checklist. And by using the checklist, it will help to remind you of all the fields that are required on the independent contractor agreement. So before any services are rendered, this contract must be fully executed and approved by Chuck Kissel. Make sure that the name listed for the independent contractor is the legal name that they use on their W-9 form. Make sure to put down the project number, object code, and all the fields on the contract are complete and that you have provided a detailed scope of work. Make sure that you attach the independent contractor checklist to the independent contractor agreement before you send it to your grant administrator. In the event that the contract is over $5,000, you will need to complete an approved sole source form. If it involves any type of IT purchase, you also need to attach a copy of the IT authorization. The workflow for the independent contractor, um, first make sure that you've got the checklist to show that they are eligible for hire. Then all of the parties sign it, including the vendor and the project administrator or the director for the project. After that, you send it to your grant administrator for review. After they've approved it, they will send it to Chuck Kissel for signature. After Chuck has signed it, the grant administrator will send it to accounts payable so that we can encumber the funds, and then we will send a copy of the executed contract back to the department. For service contract agreements, if they are, as I said, a corporation, charity, educational institute, will use the service agreement. Again, just following along using the checklist, make sure you check those off as you go, and you'll make sure you have all the information needed. So make sure all parties have signed everything. Then you'll send it to the grant administrator. The administrator approves it, sends it to Chuck Kissel. After he approves it, it's sent to accounts payable to issue a contract number, and then accounts payable sends it back to the department. So you're going to make sure that the legal name on the agreement matches the legal name on the W-9 they provide. Make sure to have a complete address on the contract, and it's their current address. Make sure you have the project number, object code, that all fields are complete, that you have attached exhibits A through C, and that, again, if it's over 5,000, you have the competitive bid form, and if an IT authorization is needed, that it is attached.
All right, I'm going to be going over the processing workflow that we have here at ASC. This workflow applies to check requests, purchase orders, reimbursements, and etc. So starting off with the first step, we have the part where the form needs to be completed. So if not all, but most of our forms have unique checklists that are meant to be used as a tool to help guide you during the completion of the form. The checklist includes any sort of required fields that need to be filled out, as well as any requirements by the type of purchases that you're making, whether that be if you're purchasing a computer, then that would require an IT authorization, which would need to be attached, as well as if you are purchasing food or doing any sort of facility rental, then that would require a hospitality form, also formerly known as the D11, but it is a case-by-case scenario. So once you go through the whole form and complete it thoroughly, you will then attach that completed checklist, the form, and any supporting documentation that is needed to process your request. So that complete packet will go to your grant administrator, whether that's a campus program or if you have a sponsored program grant administrator. From there, the grant administrator will be in charge of reviewing the packet as a whole, making sure all the elements needed are there, as well as just verifying budgets. So it's essential that you submit the request to them first, just because they do need to give their final approval. And if it's submitted to AP without approval, then that request won't be processed. So it's essential to send it to the grant administrator first. Once they have approved, they will then send it to the designated AP team member, whether that be Michelle or Malia. They will typically process the request within 10 business days if it is an approved vendor or a reoccurring expense. So there's typically a delay in times or processing if the vendor is a new vendor, which means they're not approved, just because they do need to go through vendor vetting, which that does take a bit longer, as well as, at the time that the AP team member is reviewing the request and there's some sort of missing documentation, then at that point that request would then be returned, and the processing time would reset back to zero once the request is resubmitted. If the request is all good to go, everything is there, it will get processed again during the 10 business day during the 10 business days if the vendor is approved already. So yeah, that's basically the workflow that we do have for those types of requests. All right, that is the end of our presentation. Any questions?